Hey, so I wanted to give a shot at post commentary because I thought it would be fun, and I also have some amount of experience in talking over Minecraft speedruns already. And I also think that, I mean, it's my own run, but I also think it's a pretty interesting run because I think I played it very well, but there's also a lot of time loss, both avoidable and unavoidable. So this sort of just gives me an opportunity to talk about how I feel about the run and why I made some of the decisions that I did end up making. So I can go ahead and start it. I guess just to start, like the seed that I play is probably a seed that I shouldn't even tap into to begin with. Um, it's a war motion, but this was my second day on instance moving wall, and so like normally I'm used to slightly faster world preview loading screens, and that'll show me a war motion quicker. So I when I saw the ocean, um, when I saw the water blocks generate in the preview, I just like instinctually locked it um, because I just see an ocean, want to play it. I'm not used to the the fact that the war motion would load a little later with the instance moving wall, the way that the threads are configured. But yeah, it does end up being a shipwreck seed, which is interesting because typically I'm resetting for buried treasures, but I'm not going to say no to a shipwreck this close. And it's actually a really good shipwreck as far as shipwrecks go. I do get a full set of iron tools and even a diamond shovel, although not that it really matters all that much because they mine flint at the same rate as iron shovels do, which is the reason you need a shovel so early in a run. Um, yeah, this the resources here also allow me to make shears, which shears are a really good way of getting a lot of blocks quickly. You can mine leaves with shears, and blocks are good for traversing any like awkward nether terrain. Um, and so you'll see me do that here in a second. You'll also see me craft a pressure plate, overlapping with that with the boat craft, and that will allow me to mine flint underwater at the same rate as it would above water. Um, Actually, one of the a minor misplay of this run is I think I just get too many leaves. Like even I couldn't have known the nether terrain didn't require that much leaves, but even then, like this was a lot of leaves for any nether at all. I was kind of mining it for a couple seconds longer than I should have. Um, but anyway, yeah, get the flint here, average rates. And while I'm building this portal, I guess I talk about target audience for this video. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be speedrunners who are thoroughly acquainted with the video game. I was kind of thinking this could help. The way that I talk through decisions could also help people going for sub 30 or sub 20. With some of the smaller decisions that go into um, speedrunning at a higher level and sort of the thought process, and then also maybe people that don't even speedrun at all could shed some light into that. So I'm gonna pause here actually really quickly because I want to talk about Nether Enter. Um, I tend to reset for sub 2 Nether Enters, but I'll play out like sub 210, sub 215 based on the time I'm going for. Uh, Ultimately, those runs will average out to be sub 2 if I'm playing those out. Um, but then when I get in the Nether, I typically pause to load in bastions, so I can wait for the chunks to load, and they don't have to actually wait for them to load when I'm wandering around. This pause doesn't actually get timed, so I can kind of just chill in this pause menu um, and wait for bastions to load, which is signified by a spike in the entity counter of around 30 or more, because bastions generate with a set amount of piglins in them, which tends to be around 30 or more. So as you can see here, like when I get in the nether, um, my entity counter, and I'll point out with the mouse, like as soon as I pause, it's low, and then an instant later spikes up to 40. So I'm like, typically it takes a second or two for bastions to load around me, but this one was almost instantaneous. I know it's basically right on top of me, so I make the decision that I can just look around and see it, and I do, instead of E-raying for it, which is when you lower your FOV to spot a bastion through walls based on the entity count. I'm not going to go into that now. And this is actually leads into one of the first misplays of the run, which was looking around more for a fortress. Because the fortress is this direction. I'll pan around here, yeah. Like here. Like I could it was on my screen for like less than a second. The first time I panned around this angle, um, my portal was like mostly in the way, blocking the view. But now that I'm here, I should have spotted it. Like it's hard to see with YouTube compression, but like I think I was just focused on terrain and not really like thinking that, oh wow, this seed, like you never think a seed can be that good that you're gonna get a crazy seed like this, but the fortress is right here, and this will lead into some of my biggest misplays of the run, which we'll see in a few minutes inside this bastion, because it's sort of the me not knowing that there's a fortress affects my decisions for how to play the later parts of the run. But I'm actually generally happy with how this bastion was played. Very little damage was taken. I know that I'm gonna have to exit out the top based on terrain, so I just aggro piglin, don't get the chest, and just go down here. Minor misplay of not placing a leaf block there to like mitigate piglin fall damage to help with their pathfinding, but it is what it is. Um, so here I am just continuing with the normal route, getting the backups early, so the piglins are trading while I'm still getting them. I just, an extra 3 gold blocks is really nice to help guarantee you trades. This is the only damage I take in the Bastion route, actually, 1.5 hearts. It's arguably avoidable, but I mean, I still, at this point in the run, I still have a lot of food, so I'm playing a little risky. Um, but this is actually also the first point in the run that I realize how close the fortress is, and that there is one at all. I lower my render to 2, and the spawner is still within render, so it's close. I say it's a treasure bastion in the run, but I don't really think it is, because there was only one clear entity spike that early on, and if the treasure bastion was in 2 chunks, I definitely would have seen a higher entity spike. You'll also notice here that when I left that hole with the piglins trading, I saved like 3 gold ingots in my inventory, and this is a good, safe, consistent play of preparing yourself in the event that any late piglins are coming down the bastion. You can distract them really quick without taking any damage or triggering another aggro by hitting them with an axe. And then actually, I want to go back a few seconds and look at my inventory, because while I was talking about that, my trades finished. These trades are really good, really fast, and actually super nice. Like, I get 13 obby, I have plenty of string for explosives. There's another stack of string under this thing that's just nether quartz. Good amount, workable amount of pearls, and a lot of fire res. So like I'm in a really good spot right now, and it's not even like I'm just gonna hit 3 minutes 30 seconds on the timer. Inventory is a mess, but I can worry about that later. I just want to get to the fortress. And so what I'm thinking here is, I know the fortress is close. I don't know what the terrain's going to be like. The spawner could be buried. I have to go around a little ways to get to the spawner. Maybe it's just going to be awkward to hang up. Like, because if I had to enter the fortress at a point where it loops around and then gets to the spawner, and the spawner is close enough to home portal that a pearl hung at my home portal would unhang, um, then want ideally I'd have 20 obby. I wouldn't have to worry about that. Um, so I'm like, I have 6 chests to check in the housing bastion. I'm gonna check them because it's pretty. Not even at 4 minutes in the run. But this is it ends up being I lose about 25 seconds to this. This is the only chest I check that ends up having obsidian. It gives me 4. So I'm at 17 now, and now it's sunk cost fallacy, right? Like, I'm at 17. Surely 5 chests left, or I guess, yeah, 5 chests left. Surely one of them has, or 3 chests left. Sorry. Surely another. They have 3 obsidian between the 3 of them, and they don't. So now I'm just hard punished for checking, and I even did like the safe way of checking the chests so that I didn't take any damage from piglins. Uh, if you notice, I had gold in my inventory, so this is just like straight up time loss. I could have just thrown the gold, but I was just playing safe because I don't know, maybe it could be ranked brain rot, or the fact that I could be playing for PB rather than having the mental to play for sub 10. I was just, hey, I'm still early in the run. I might as well play it a little safe and mitigate damage, but I could have left the bastion. Let's actually see. When do I check the first chest up here? Like around, like I could have just gone straight out the back here at like 350. Instead, it takes me till 4:15 to leave. That's 25 seconds of time loss that's avoidable right there. If I just thought a little bit more about home portal, and like if I'd even seen the fortress, I could have known where it was, and that I did have distance to pearl hang. And pearl hanging is when you throw a pearl and then lower your render, so the pearl is not in your render distance, which allows you to just keep a pearl at a given location, and at any point when you're ready, you raise your render distance, and you'll get teleported to where that pearl is. And this is the portal that I entered the nether on, so my idea at this point, because I don't have 20 obsidian, which allows for a calculated travel, and at any point in space in the Nether, I am just going to hang a pearl to my home portal and use that as my calculated point. So yeah, I get to the fortress here. Again, this could be 25 seconds faster for 13 fort. And one of the first things I see, as expected, given the spawner proximity, is the spawner. Um, so the reason I lowered my render there, aside from the fact that I hung a pearl, was that I was, and you'll notice I even lowered my render a little bit before hanging the pearl out of habit, because I could have played for a strategy. Out of habit, I played for a strategy called dynamic render distance manipulation. The idea of which is essentially to limit the area in which you have rendered in the game to force more fortress creatures to spawn close to you. Um, there's a 50-50 shot, I believe, for whether or not you can spawn a blaze or a wither skeleton, so you can get some pretty lucky fort splits with a good dynamic render manipulation. But because I see the spawner, and because the rest of the fortress looked kind of buried, and because I had a home portal hung, I just stuck with the spawner and played it out. And I just ended up getting bad blaze rates. But I literally did all that I could here to mitigate any bad luck. And this is one of the best played parts of the run. When I got here, I'll talk a little bit about this, how I played this. When I got to this fortress, I'll just pause it actually. When I got to this fortress, or when I got to the spawner, I should say, I took out, it was pretty cookie cutter the way I played it. The way you're supposed to play a spawner is take out the first wave of blazes that spawn, then use a blaze bed to clear out the area around it. This allows more blazes to spawn because a lot of the blocks that spawn around a blaze spawner by default limit spawns. So you could have spawner cycles that have 1 or 2 blazes with a fully enclosed spawner versus use a blaze bed, clear it out. Now you pretty consistently get 3 or 4 blazes spawning every cycle, vastly speeding up your fortress split. But I mean, here I am a minute and a half into the run and into the fortress, and I don't even have a single rod. So I do all that I can do, craft some explosives. In my mind, I'm thinking that I can play for 0 cycle here, which is a strategy that allows you to kill the Ender Dragon under a minute of entering the end by killing it at the top of a tower, an obsidian tower before it perches at the fountain. And killing the dragon when it perches at the fountain is called a 1 cycle because it takes 1 cycle of perching versus 0 cycle where you're killing it before any cycle occurs. Typically, runners are more comfortable with 0 cycle on more explosives, and it requires a couple of ender pearls to pull off. So I have 8 beds, which I am more than comfortable of doing 0 cycle with, and I have a good amount of pearls at this point in the run. So, and pre-crafting these explosives is actually, it ends up being the difference when I enter the end between what is a sub 11 pace end enter with 0 cycle and sub 12 pace end enter with 0 cycle. So pre-crafting these explosives here was actually crucial. Yeah, back to the rod count here. I now have 5. I entered this fortress at around 4 minutes 45 seconds, and I'll be using home portal at 7 minutes 18. So it's like 2.5 minute, 2 minute 40-second spawner split or fort split, which is way less than ideal. I went 6 for 19 on blaze rods, and for context, the odds of a blaze dropping a rod is 50-50. So on average, you're going 6 for 12, and I went 6 for 19. And then, but yeah, now measuring eyes to find the stronghold. And thankfully, it's a lava pool overworld, so I'm already on the surface to throw eyes. I throw the first one, and it's 76% confident that I'll hit the stronghold on those coordinates, but I throw another one to be safe. I didn't like the measurement that I did on the first eye. I didn't feel confident, but this is not a very high rolly play of me. Maybe a runner going for sub 10 would just go off the 76% confidence. Like, it was a correct measurement. And oh, my camera's covering the thing. My bad. But, the first measurement was correct, so the second eye didn't really change anything, but it just, in the event that I mismeasured, it could have saved the run. But I'm really happy with how I played this post blind in general. My pearls were very decisive here, going to terrain instead of in the middle of lava. I home portaled at around 7:18, and now I'll be getting to second portal chords like a minute later. This pearl, by the way, that I'm throwing now is really good. Like, gets me like right on chords for second portal. So it'll be like a high 8 I Spy once I get, up here where I can actually build the obsidian thing, the nether portal. That's what it's called. um, but yeah, this is my fastest I Spy is 8 minutes 7 seconds, so this is definitely not my fastest pace, but still excellent PB pace. Um, so I'm lowering my render here to prepare for a strategy called preemptive navigation, where I locate the silverfish spawner in the portal room through the walls by looking for a spike on my pie chart. And it gives me a backwards spike. So I'm like, okay, it's either left back or right back. And I see right back, but I'm thinking that because that's a wormhole, it's an actual path. And a wormhole is when the stronghold overlaps itself. I don't actually know how deep that is. Um, so I play for the safer. I know how deep this part of the hallway is, since portal rooms can only generate so deep into the stronghold. But it ends up being wrong, and it's this wormhole on the right here is actually just mid looping around a few rooms, and then I hear the silverfish, and portal room is right here. So unfortunately, lose a little bit of time to that too. Um, but the silverfish there actually was really helpful because it knocked off half a heart of damage, which allows me to then use one pearl to death reset here. Uh, and I'm going to talk about a few other things quickly before I enter the end. The death resetting I do because doing a zero cycle is you ideally want to have full health and hunger when doing a zero cycle because you're pearling a lot. You could take damage from the dragon or the explosives, so you want to ideally be full on hunger. And so now you'll see me prep my hotbar for the zero cycle. And actually here, I realized that it's a one eye, but even then I only have 2 pearls that I can use for zero cycle. So that basically eliminates any chance of me pulling off a back zero cycle where the dragon's in the back of the end island, and it ends up being back here. And the tower is high anyway, so I don't know how I could have if I could have pulled this off in the run. But if it was a front dragon, then 2 pearls is plenty to get me there. But back dragon 2 pearls is pretty tough. Maybe if I use my pearls a little better throughout the run, it could have been different. But I think my use of pearls was fairly effective throughout the run. Like it just got me where I needed to go faster. There wasn't really too much wasted. I used 3 pearls to death reset total. I could have knocked it down to 2 in the overworld death reset after I used my home portal by just taking some fall damage. But it was just faster in the moment to use pearls there. And I want to talk about a few more things here. Counting, let's say for example, actually, you know what? I'm just gonna let the end fight play out. In my PB, my last PB, I entered the end at 9 minutes and 11 seconds, and on this one, I entered the end 45 seconds slower. So it's not my best pace by far, but I just got a good end fight here. Like you'll see, the dragon snaps, indicating a perch over the fountain, and it's a quick and easy 1 cycle here. I think I 4+1 this, but in my old PB, it was a faster end ender by far, but the end fight was double the time of this end fight. So I mean, it's about time I get a good end fight in a PB, I guess. It's because it's been like 8 months, but yeah. So yeah, a couple things to talk about here. The time loss of this run. Let's say my spawner split, my fortress split in general was like 1 minute 20 seconds versus 2 minutes 40 seconds, which is honestly the rate at which I killed blazes was really good at that spawner, so it's pretty realistic that I could have been out in that fortress in 1 minute 20 seconds. And I can go back here. So if I entered the fort at 440-ish, then or I guess it was like 430-ish. Yeah. I mean, that's like a sub 6 home portal, or at least 6 flat. Definitely blind PB or first portal PB, I guess. And blaze rates are completely out of my control. That time loss is completely out of my control. So easily could have been 1 minute 20 seconds faster with a little bit more luck. And then, of course, there was the avoidable time loss of not committing to home portal faster, which is definitely my greatest regret of the entire run. I should have been thinking about that more. It was just such a tricky scenario. There was a lot of variables to consider. There was like the buried housing. There was the fact that I already had 13 obsidian and still had 6 chests to check. There was the fact that I didn't see the fortress until afterwards, which was a misplay, um, because then I didn't know what the terrain was like. That I could very easily hang up Pearl to home portal. So the time loss there was 25 seconds. Add that to the. Actually, well, first of all, I'll say that even then, if I just fix that decision, 25 seconds is the barrier between sub 12 and sub 11 here. 11:15 minus 25 is 10:50. That's my goal. Like sub 11. That's what I've been going for the past, well, for a good amount of time. But then with the blaze rates being better, like if I save even a minute 20 seconds, like 25 plus a minute 20 is a minute 45. 11:15 minus a minute 45 is like that's 9:30. That's such a comfortable sub 10. Like this was a very realistic sub 10 seed for a runner of my caliber. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, so I'll have to go next. Um, but it's cool to see that there are seeds that I can pull off a sub 10 on. It's very reassuring to me. I feel very. This run makes me feel very confident in my gameplay. Obviously, there are some mistakes and some time loss, but I'm really happy with how I played this run in general. And knowing that it can be faster is very motivating. Um, Especially as easy I can make up time as easily as just getting luckier with blazes. So I'll keep going at it, and hopefully can beat the barrier soon. Roll another seed like this, and just things work out. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about this. So thanks for listening.